Alright, everybody, I just ate a bunch of spaghetti, but I'm ready to pull on this SP banner, because I hear there's good things lurking about. No, I'm just kidding. Not a pull video for once, but arena guild video thing, sure. But I want to preface the video, although it's kind of too late for that already, with showing sort of, who I am in the game or my rank or whatever, in case you're wondering who is this clown and why should I listen to him. I've been playing the game since day one. Currently in Arena, have 121k contribution points. So yeah, I play a lot. I got all the mini medals. I do pretty well in the Blossom Door. Fully unlocked talent panels 39. Yeah, I play a lot. So I'm not like an EX wizard or anything like that, but I'm always nose of the grindstone. I've done a lot of the EX stuff kind of on my own. So yeah, I get by. On that note, I'm actually curious what my global thingy is. I want to say 190. Okay. That's news to me. So apparently 10 people quit, or I got more CP. Sure. But the kind of the main idea of the video is I wanted to go over some not new per se strategies, but things obviously anyone who wants to not die in Arena, what they should consider, but don't overlook these things or put them into practice as best you can. And it's usually three main things, one being probably the most important, which is the turn order of you and who you're fighting. Obviously that's important. Unfortunately, unless we get a quality of life patch sometime in the future, we don't see the turn order in like a HUD over top on the top of the screen like we have with PvE, which is unfortunate. But for now, you just have to check the agility and see whoever has the higher agility, they'll go before you. But everybody knows that. But sometimes what people might overlook is the agility buffs people get. For example, Party Animal, she has at her core decent agility, but she gets 40% more agility right out of the gate for 2 turns. And she's going first every time. That's basically a guarantee. Lieutenant Gorsby Purvis, due to his recent blossoming, which is amazing, I'll go over that in a minute, he has a very similar thing. He gets 2 attack and 2 agility buffs. He's going to go right behind her. People like Nocturnus and Santa Elena get agility buffs, among other things, on rotating turns, odd and even. Nocturnus's is odd, I believe. So he starts off the fight kind of juiced up. You're fighting him, you got your strategy, turn 2 rolls around, you're like, oh, I'm going to kill him. If you don't kill him in turn 2, you may forget at turn 3, he's going to now be quicker, and he's going to go before the character you wanted to use to kill him with, and now here comes a loss in Arena, in case you forgot about that. And like I said, Santa Elena has the same thing. I'm sure there are others, but off the top of my head, so I don't ramble and have to edit the video, I'm just going to use those 2 for now. Another thing important to consider, which is obvious, but is the abilities people have and the range that they have. Well, I lied, and I did have to do an edit after all. But aside from knowing the range of abilities, the move is something you have to look at too. By default, some characters have a move of 4, such as this fella, Marquez de Leon, which is probably the best French I've ever spoken in my life, assuming that was even right to begin with. And he's got a 1x3 marital, so at his starting point, he can hit someone 7 panels away. It's pretty nice. A couple of the characters have a 4 move. Off the top of my head, I forget who. 3 is pretty common for a lot of S ranks and juiced up A's. There's a few A's that have a 4 move. There's 1 or 2 B's that have a 4 move too. But in other words, aside from looking at where a skill can get you at, make sure you know their move as well and factor that in. Some abilities, such as Crystalinda's, her Frigid Blade has a range. If you notice, it says 3, not 1 to 3. That means wherever she is, 3 panels in any direction. So basically, it's like a diamond shaped around her. She can hit people with said skill. Her Blossoming ability, Frozen Fetters, it says front. Granted, it's 3 panels away, but if you have her cornered in a certain way, and there's a few other abilities like this, it's not too often, thank God, because it's kind of a pain to remember and use properly. But it's front, meaning she has to be facing the person, so if she can't face the target the right way, you can kind of block her in or get her move obstructed to where she can't use the ability at all. So that's also kind of something to consider if you aren't able to take someone out in Arena, but you can sort of defensively handicap them so they can't use their skills, so to speak, then, you win. And then aside from knowing your damage types against the enemy so that you'll do more damage, of course, find out what they're weak to, make sure you have the damage to boot, or typeless at that, which is always welcome, except for evasion units, unless it's a spell, of course. You also want to make sure you have some resistances against the... I'm wiggling my phone like crazy. Sorry, it's probably getting somebody motion sick. You want to make sure you have some sort of resistances against once you're fighting, because with Arena, there's increased hit points and reduced damage. You're not going to one-shot things a lot of the time, so there are going to be times where you might have to absorb an attack or two, or with tanking or baiting strategies, that's kind of its purpose, so that's something else to pay attention to. Again, that's not news or anything, but it's always, you want to kind of do like a little checklist before each fight. Like I said, assuming you want to be alive in Arena, so... Also, I wanted to go over my team and why I picked them, and why I think they'll do okay for the coming meta for Guild, so to speak, and given all the insane S units lately and just all that jazz. First, with Pissarro, he's great for anything, as he has a typeless with a 4 range, so he can snipe people from anywhere, and it's 1 to 4, so he doesn't have to be 4 panels away. Within 4 panels, he can hit somebody. 290 is not super strong, but like I said, it's... if that person is that 4th panel away and you can't hit him, it can finish somebody off. His other type list, 600 physical, and it often lowers attack. Everybody knows about that. It's insane. It's one-shotting everything. And then his Crimson Cut is the most unique, aside from its AoE. It's considered a spell, but it's not a spell at its core, so it can't be reflected. And since it's a quote-unquote spell, it also can't miss. And it also being Frizz... with him probably not even awakened, he can one-shot Dolmagus. He can almost one-shot Nocturnus. So he's great. If you have him, even not awakened, but you have him level cap, he's good to use. And obviously his get-out-of-jail-free death mechanic is, amazing. So he stands above a lot of people with that alone. Well-rounded, a lot of utility. And him at Awakened 1, I think he just gets some buffs. Yeah, odd turns, attack and defense, and evasion. Oh, that's right, he's one of the... he gets some evasion as well, so throughout the fights, it gets harder and harder to hit him with any type of attack or martial damage. Moving on to Eric, who's my favorite hero, probably by a long shot, too, if I had to guess. Or, if gun to head, if I had to pick. Hello, open, thank you. And the reason being, his moves by themselves are pretty strong. He's got a 1x3 AoE, crack 4 hits at, let's just call it 100%, so it's 400 damage crack, which is good. He's got a 350 typeless that inflicts 2 different ailments at an often rate, which is 60-70%, something like that. I'm not going to bust out a spreadsheet and show you every fine detail of these skills. I'm just kind of show you the bold down info on them. But he, at his core, gets 10% increased crit. So I think the base crit is 5%, I think for everybody. So he crits a little more often. Him awakened once is really good, as he gets 2 move and 40% evasion for 3 turns at the very start of the fight. That's amazing for Arena, because most Arena fights don't last more than 3 turns. Unless, what's her name and Young Terry are involved, screwing the fight up for everybody. But he's really good, and I'm actually going to take off his Chill Blaze skill for Arena and just have him use Edge of Death, because I believe Pissarro's weak to paralysis and quite a few others, and there's a lot of other people that are sort of neutral to it. But with 350 and he crits fairly often, it does good damage regardless, and he's got some evasion, and he goes early in the turn order, so it's okay if he's out there a little bit. He can kind of survive a round or two. So I think overall he's a pretty good unit, just for really any occasion. The Envenom and Poison is important too, because people sometimes forget they have it on them. I know I've had a few characters die in the past because you forget they're envenomed, or you get envenomed and there's not a lot of hit points left, and if you don't have a healer or form of recovery, you try to kill the opponent as quickly as you can. You're going to mess up some strategies, get sloppy, so that will result in a loss sometimes. So Envenom isn't like a go-to strategy, but if it happens, it's very welcomed. And I'll go to Dread Dragon next, which I'm kind of surprised I want to use him. But with his Blossom Tree, he gets another move, so he's at a 3 move now, which is okay, which is kind of average for an S tier, but his new ability is a 1-4 range Major Sizz Breath twice, which is very powerful, and it's 4 range, so he can attack where he stands 7 panels away, which is like almost the length of the arena, especially where you and your team start at. 20% more damage, and a little bit of recovery whenever he takes a hit. Not like a ground degen or Envenom, he doesn't recover for those, but much like True Form and Green Dragon, he gets a little bit of hit points recovered whenever he takes a hit, so he's a little harder to kill. The Sizz Breath is good because Dolmegus' weak to Sizz, Dragon Lord's weak to Sizz, units, Dolmegus especially, you'll see a lot coming up just because of the evasion, and he's martial damage, ground degen, he's just useful for a lot of things. A 4 move, high agility, phases through objects, So I think he'll be pretty useful. He's got really good damage, really good range, a little bit of recovery, and he's kind of slow. So if you put him in the back sort at the start, people might kind of forget he's there because everyone's used to the same 8, 9, 10 kind of meta units, and here comes people like Baramos and Dread Dragon slow but coming in, taking somebody out, and you're like, oh shit, I forgot all about him, because believe me, that happens. And for the last one, and probably my favorite S tier now, is Captain Catman, Gorsby Purvis, and his recent Blossom turned him into a assassin on crack ×2. He was an okay unit to begin with, fairly good stats, pretty strong, good agility, whatever, had a little AoE, he had a typeless AoE attack, he had 2 different Sizz attacks, sure. His new attack is a 1-3 range at 105, so 315. At level 10, it's like 460 damage, which is good. But he also gets a higher base crit rate. And that's important because this new ability hits 3 times, and there are 3 separate instances of hits, so they can all crit. And his base perk of dual wielding, I believe it's called, he occasionally follows up with a default fight attack, but it's zap, I believe, and that can also crit. A few blossoming doors just today I was using him on, and he was just shitting on things, crits left and right. Even if somebody's strong against zap, which is the majority of his attacks, he has an AoE fizz. So he's good for a lot of reasons. And also with the tree, he gets back to the tree. He gets 40% attack and agility for 3 turns right off the bat. So for agility, he's a wind-up toy, very wound up, ready to go. And like I said, he's got a zap with multiple hits, higher crit rate, that can all crit. An AoE fizz, typeless, that's good for anybody, except for Nightclubber, because Nightclubber has 9 billion defense. But with him having a zap attack is good because Pissarro, who you'll see a lot of, is weak against zap. And I believe Fallen Angel Corvus, who people are probably going to say I'm dumb for not using, also has a weakness against zap. Yeah, so, and bang, just like Pissarro as well. So when you see these 2 guys together, if you have Veronica, you win. So, assuming you don't get hit by him first. But that, on the note of resistances, that's probably my team's biggest weakness. I'm going to say only, just to be confident. No, biggest weakness is I think I have a lot of shared negative resistances. Yeah, bang and maybe zap. Bang, bang, and zap. Only zap, bang, and zap. So, yeah, so if people, Jade or die dragon guy and whatever, a little bit of zap and bang will, with the right placement and turn order acknowledgement, as I mentioned earlier, could take a team out like this. But anyhow, yeah, I kind of wanted to just reiterate some basic common sense almost things people do with Arena, but I wanted to more put it in detailed words as to why, like the turn order, acknowledge the buffs, the agility buffs people get, and also the damage and defense buffs people get too is worth acknowledging, because there's been times where the damage you're doing, because the damage is static in this game. It's not like a rolled range like in Diablo or something like that, like a lot of role-playing games have. And the next time they get a buff, you're doing less damage, or that next hit, which was going to kill, doesn't, and they're left with 13 hit points, and you're pulling your hair out. So, but yeah, things like that you want to acknowledge and really look into, and like I said earlier, kind of do like a checklist before each fight. Turn order, range of abilities, the movement characters have, knowing their buffs, and obviously the damage you do against their weaknesses, and vice versa. So But anyhow, that will be it for now.